It's not just the risk of losing, it's also the reward when you win.
Explain the basics of NFL Survivor and what it is.
So the thing about Survivor is you have to pick a team that wins a game outright in that particular week. Just one team, they just got to win. They don't have to cover a spread. They just need to win the game. The only catch is you can't use the same team the following week. Once you use a team, they're out. You have to cross them off your list.
In a typical Survivor League, you'll pay your entry fee of $20, $50, $100, and the person who's left at the end gets all of that money.
Sounds pretty simple. Let me just pick the best team. But week 7, week 8, what am I going to do then? I've used the 8 best teams. Well, there's always new bad teams and injuries. That's not the problem. Don't worry about that. The thing you really got to pay attention to in Survivor is it's not just about surviving. And I'll give you an example. If you survive to week 12, you're like, great, I'm week 12. I put in $10 in my pool and there are 100 people. So maybe how much, do I win my $1,000? Well, if they're out of the 100 people in your pool, if there's 80 people left, it doesn't matter that it's week 12 or week 2. The only thing that matters is your equity in the total pot. So if you're in week 2 and there's 80 people left, or you're in week 12 and there's 80 people left, you have a 1 in 80 chance to win. That's it. Doesn't matter. So the key is not just to survive, it's to survive while other people perish. That's the key. It should be called Soul Survivor, not Survivor, because surviving is insufficient. It's necessary, but it's not sufficient. You think, this is easy. Just pick the best team I have left. Well, in the NFL, if you do the math, there's an 80% chance for the best team this week, and next week it might be 85, and you start multiplying that out, you're going to get close to 0 really quick. Most people are going to get wiped out in the first few weeks of the season. Sometimes there's a really easy slate where, all the favorites are winning, and then you have a pool that there's a lot of survivors later in the year. But one thing that you got to keep in mind is, again, it's not just surviving, it's surviving when other people perish. And there was a lesson that I learned in 2000 when I wanted to take the Broncos, who were huge favorites against the Cincinnati Bengals, but I had already used them, so I couldn't. So I was bummed that I had to take the Bears against the Eagles, and I was very nervous about that game. And the Bears won barely, by like 3, and I just sweated out. But the Bengals, because Corey Dillon set the all-time rushing record, crushed the Broncos and knocked out the 60% of my pool that was on the Broncos that I would have taken if they were available. And I learned a lesson. I was like, wow, I wanted the Broncos too, but because I was forced not to take them, I got this huge windfall. All of a sudden, I was toward the end of my pool, which was a pretty big money pool. And how do I reverse engineer that? Well, you can look using data on what the most popular teams are for the week. So you find out the team that's overloaded with so many people and you fade that team. Now, that might be the best choice. They may have an 85% chance to win. But in the event that they do lose, you wipe out half your pool. So it's not just who's most likely to win. It's what's the payoff for me if they do win. And if I'm on the team that has everybody else still, on it, then there's really no payoff. We're all still alive next week. If they win, there's not really much that's going to accrue to me equity-wise in the entire pool from that team winning.
A common mistake that Survivor players make when they first start, myself included, is they'll just go down all of the spreads and they'll pick the largest one. This is what you just said. They'll pick the 14-point spread. When is it best to maybe fade the biggest spread and go to the second or the third most likely?
Yeah, so it depends what the gap is, right? If it's 14 is the best and the second most, let's do percentages. 14 is like 91% and the next best is like 81. There'd have to be like 60% or more of the pool on the 14-point spread. The likelihood to win still matters a lot, right? It's not just what the payoff is. And I'll give you a really good example that I always use to illustrate this. Let's say you had only 2 choices with Bucs against Dallas, okay? And they're 80%-ish to win. You could either take that or you could take, the only other choice you had was you had to take Dallas, okay? And Dallas is 20% to win. But you knew out of your 100-person pool, 99, the other 99 people all had Tampa. So what's going to happen?
You're going to take Dallas.
Of course you're going to take Dallas, because think about this, right? You have an 80% chance of being wiped out next week. You're done. Thanks for your $100. You're out. Okay, 80% chance. If you take Tampa, you've got a 100% chance of making it to week 2, because then all 100 of you are on Tampa. So next week you survive. So did everybody else, because they all had Tampa. And win or lose, even if they lose, you're all in the same boat. And what are your odds of winning the pool? You have a 1 in 100 chance. There's 100 people in the pool. But if you take Dallas, you've got an 80% chance to be out next week, but you've got a 20% chance to win your entire pool then and there, because everybody else gets knocked out. Do you want a 20% chance to win your pool or a 1% chance? There is a 20x edge in that very unrealistic circumstance. It's not just how likely are they to win. Again, Dallas is only 1 in 5 and Tampa's 4 in 5, even though you've got a 20x thing. The payout matters. The payout in this case is you win the entire pool. The payout for doing what everyone else is doing is, okay, you've got a 1 in 100 chance and now it's week 2. So It's not just the risk, it's also the reward.
To see Chris Liss's weekly Survivor article, you can see it now for free for 10 days. Just go to rotowire.com/try.